Good evening. Welcome to the Tax Day Planning Commission meeting. A couple of housekeeping items before we call the meeting to order. The agenda for the meeting is available if you're following along on the Planning Commission page on the City of Edina website. So please feel free to refer to that there if you'd like to follow along. And second thing I want to mention before the meeting gets started is due to ADA standards, we'll begin tonight having a roll call vote for everything. So that includes approving minutes, approving agendas, and basically everything we do will be on a roll call vote. So that's to reflect ADA standards. So let's all bear with us as we accommodate that change. Without further ado, I'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Commissioner Just. Commissioner Padilla.
Here.
Commissioner Nelson.
Here.
Commissioner Brennan.
Here.
Commissioner Bennett.
Here.
Commissioner Hanneman.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Felt.
Here.
Chair Elkar.
Here. First item of business is to approve the meeting agenda. Is there a motion to approve the April 15th meeting agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Will you call the roll,
It'll take a while.
please?
Commissioner Just. Commissioner Padilla. Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett.
Aye.
Commissioner Hanneman.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Felt.
Aye.
Chair Elkar.
Aye, so the motion carries. Second item is to approve the meeting minutes from the February 25th regular meeting and the March 25th work session. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Move to approve those minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Will you call the roll?
Commissioner Just. Commissioner Padilla.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett.
Aye.
Commissioner Hanneman.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Felt.
Aye.
Chair Elkar.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is community comment. This is a time available to residents who'd like to speak on a subject that is not on tonight's agenda or on a scheduled agenda in the future. So if anyone would like to address the Planning Commission, please come forward now. You'll have 3 minutes to cover your topic. I don't see anyone coming forward. So I think we can move on from that section and move to the first item of business, which is reports and recommendations. We don't have any public hearings tonight. 2 reports and recommendation items. The first is a sketch plan review for 7600 Park Lawn. And Director Teague will be introducing the topic for us.
Okay, thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Before you, we do have a sketch plan review, as mentioned. This property is located at 7600 Park Lawn Avenue, and it's for a senior housing project. This first slide indicates the zoning map in which the property is located. The zoning district is highlighted. It is currently zoned MDD 6, Mixed Development District. The site is located west of France. What we're seeing on the screen is all those different zoning districts in the area. You can see it's a mixture of zoning districts. We've got some PUDs and some industrial zoning. But it's located west of France, just north of 494. This next map is from our comprehensive plan. It shows the designated land use of the site. So within the comprehensive plan, this site is guided for office and residential use. The allowed housing density in the comprehensive plan is between 20 and 75 units per acre. So the applicant this evening has presented 2 different building options. So this would be, they are proposing two different apartment buildings on the site. Each would be about 150 units. The building massing that you're seeing on the screen, this first option is 2 7-story projects, or 2 7-story apartments. And the second option shown on the screen now has a 12-story option along with a 7-story building. Of note here, the 12 stories would be located closest to Fred Richards Park, which is just to the north and west of the site. It's a little bit different from the Fred and the French projects, you may recall, where those projects, the height was stepped, got lower as you move toward the park, and the height is closer to the street. This configuration is a little bit the opposite of that. The building is turned, so you're not seeing the full mass of the building from the residential properties to the north, so that's kind of the reasoning for the alignment there. This next slide shows a site plan. So it's the buildings that we saw, but this is a 2D map that shows where the buildings would be located. The site would access off Park Lawn Avenue. There's a drive aisle that would connect to Fred Richards Park. There's a series of sidewalks around all of the buildings and through the project. You can see the green space and some proposed landscaping. So again, this is the option 1, where it would be 2 7-story buildings. And this site plan on the screen now indicates that second option of the 12 stories. So you can see there would be a little more green space, but the trails, the sidewalks, the access into the park would be the same. This next slide indicates zoning compliance with the current zoning of the site, which is MDD 6. So as the table demonstrates, the building setbacks would all be met with the proposed building. The next category is building height. This site has a height restriction of 4 stories and 48 feet. So again, this project would exceed that 4-story limit with especially the 12-story proposal. The zoning, the MDD 6 zoning district has a density requirement. That's the lot area required, the third category. So based on the density that's allowed in the zoning ordinance, only 125 units would be allowed on this site. And again, they're proposing 300 units. As I mentioned before, the density in the comprehensive plan allows up to 75 units an acre. So this is one of those areas where the site is guided for housing, but we don't have a zoning district that matches what the comprehensive plan allows for in terms of density, not the use, just the density. So variances would be required using standard zoning. We've had this discussion in the past about getting away from using PUD for flexibility with the zoning requirements. So the result of that is we can't require affordable housing with this project or our sustainability policy. Kind of those trade-offs with the PUD that we consider. So all of these variances would have to be considered on their own merits. Building coverage would be code compliant as well as floor area ratio. Question came up from a planning commissioner about what the FAR is with the Fred and the Finch projects. That the FAR on those projects are allowed to be up to 1.5. So that is a little bit greater than what we're seeing here. Areas of focus for the Planning Commission as you get into your sketch plan discussion is, given the number of variances that are necessary here, and some pretty significant variances, is the existing MDD zoning, should we continue to use that and just continue and consider those variances using the variance criteria, or should we go more toward a PUD? Again, the PUD criteria would be difficult because this is not a mixed-use project. It's just it's an apartment project. So those are some of the areas for discussion for the Planning Commission. So I will stop there, and with that, our applicant has a presentation as well, and then we can answer questions following the applicant presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Commissioners, thank you very much for having me this evening. Josh Branstad with Greco. Very excited to be here and talk through this project with you. As we talk about the project, I think what I've got in my presentation is probably just a little more detail about each sketch plan that we'll review tonight. Very much look forward to your input and feedback. I think, Carrie nailed the gating issues that are out there that we're trying to evaluate and kind of understand what a process forward may look like. But I think the long and the short of it is we're here proposing a two-phase project that would deliver age-restricted housing for the community. And right now, the density here is somewhere between 125 and 150 units for each phase. Kind of depends on what that final building footprint looks like, what the unit mix is, and sizes. So as we go through the presentation, as you know, you're familiar with the site, I'm sure, but just to show a little bit of context here on this slide of the location next to and adjacent to Fred Richards Park. We've got in the red is the phase one and phase two proposed site locations, and then the adjacent uses next to this area. We've got the Edina Park Apartments, Pentagon Park, the Finch, the Fred, the Edina Corporate Center, 4820, and then the Gateway Edina to the west. On this slide, just wanted to show you what the existing conditions are today. You may be very well familiar with this, but if not, this is a top-down view of the site, and then a perspective from the street view. So today, its current use is a 4-story office building that is primarily occupied by a local bank, Scale Bank. There are a couple other users in the building as well that would they would go through a relocation process as part of the redevelopment with the existing property owner. So as we looked at the project, really diving into the project priorities, area alignment really with the Greater Southdale District Plan, unique experiences, pattern and connectivity, scale and form, placemaking, connectivity, accessibility and mobility, access versus mobility, sustainability and resilience overall, and then the district services, arts and culture, connected, integrated, pedestrian friendly. Those are the areas that we feel that both site plans correlate with and connect to related to the Southdale District Plan. The site itself, we're proposing very high quality design. Sustainability is a forefront part of the features within the project. Park connectivity. We know there's a lot to still figure out there, a lot of conversations that will need to be happening with the improvements that go forward in the park, but excited to be a part of that conversation. Life cycle housing, I think is one of the biggest benefits of this project. The aging and community concept is an opportunity to achieve here through this development. Environmental improvements, just naturally by redeveloping this site, and then to complement the park and connect to the park. Here's some design visioning. Two of the projects on this slide are projects that we are developing. The upper left corner is a project that will be opening in Minnetonka in 2 weeks called the Ensley. It's a 121 unit, age restricted 55 plus project that I think really represents a lot of the design quality and characteristics that we envision being an opportunity here at 7600 Park Lawn. The project directly adjacent to it as well is a project that we'll be breaking ground on this fall in Woodbury. It's a 150 unit, 55 plus project as well. Again, very high quality architecture design finishes. You see the step backs, so really neat articulation. The other images on this slide are really just example images, precedent images around the type of quality of design that we'd anticipate here. For amenities within the buildings themselves and on the exterior front, obviously, Fred Richards Park connectivity is one of the forefront amenities for people living here in the surrounding community. Each building would have its own pool and spa, a dog run concept for the community, outdoor kitchens and grilling area, multiple active courtyards, communal planning gardens, which have been a huge hit in our project about to open in Minnetonka. Expansive outdoor recreation areas, and then actually this is an interior amenity, but a hobby lounge and art room. Within the interior aspects, we've got fitness centers for each building, private offices and meeting rooms, full-time management staff, pet accommodations, multiple unit offerings. This would be highly skewed towards 3 in 2-bedroom units with a handful of 1-bedrooms as well. Bike parking, storage, and repair areas, club rooms, theater, and a golf simulator lounge, along with heated parking, heated underground structured parking. Sustainability, like I mentioned, is on the forefront as we approach the projects. Here's a list of a variety of different ones. I know I should refer to them, so we'll go through them. Solar-ready infrastructure within how we build the building so that it could accept it into the future, if not as part of the development. EV charging stations, again, connectivity to Fred Richards Park and all the outdoor recreation activities that are available there. The low-E glass that we'll use throughout the building, native plantings, Energy Star appliances, low-flow plumbing fixtures, LED light fixtures with energy-efficient starters, recycling program, climate-appropriate exterior cladding for the building, low to no VOC paints, programmable thermostats, planting beds, pollinator stations, multiple green roofs, bike parking and storage. Enrollment in the XL-EDA program, which pretty much all of our projects go through their evaluation program. Permeable pavers, significant reduction, about a 25% reduction in the impervious surface that's currently at the site, along with drought-resistant plantings. So again, Carrie overviewed. I just wanted to really walk through how we would plan to phase the project. Right now, what we're looking at are the 2 7-story concepts. And we've kind of got an interesting, site here in the fact that we are also assuming the same type of soil and water level conditions that the Fred and the Finch encountered on those sites. So why a 7-story building? We've really got about a half story of that lower level garage that pops up due to the water table elevation, and then to accommodate the remaining parking for the site, we bring that to the 2nd level. So that naturally pushes the project up about another story over what it would normally need to be. Right now, as we look at this, when we put together the sketch plan concepts, we said between 125 to 150 units per building. We're right now at about 135 units in each one of these buildings based off of market demand that we've seen at our project in Minnetonka. And that's really just a function of how we've laid out the units, the sizes, et cetera. The buildings do both step back at the 2nd level. So while the building steps out at the 1st level, we step it back to create some relief from the park. And then we'd also anticipate, like we saw in those earlier images, probably some unique articulation around and step backs at the top floor as well. Here's just the massing blocking diagram, just to give you some perspective of what that looks like, what that could feel like in its current layout. This is the main level. So as you can see here, this is the above grade story of the parking, and we have wrap housing around the outside of the parking. We have units that walk out onto the paths that will connect or could connect into the park at the appropriate locations. Also, that will run north and south along Park Lawn and then connect to the sidewalk that we have down here fronting our surface parking. Right now, we have planned in the building one parking stall per bedroom. We are seeing that's probably on the heavier side as subscription for the parking is at our Minnetonka site, but that is what we have planned into the footprint right now. The 54 exterior stalls would be for guests and vendors that you can see here on the surface side of things. And this is just really to highlight the elevation of the building. So as I was talking before, this lower level of the garage pops up about a half a floor. So while every other floor is basically 10 feet in height, we've got about 5 feet that comes up out of that lower level due to the water table heights that we assume are there. We also took it upon ourselves to do a sun study, just an early, very preliminary diagram of this. And really where we see the most impact is during the months that we would all assume, right? The December to March timeframe, where we see the northern cast of the shadows. But outside of those timeframes, throughout the year, very limited off-casting to the adjacent neighbors. Concept two. So we also wanted to look at an alternative option to this, more of a, given that we're next to the park, bringing in some additional height at the site for the views, et cetera, and whatnot. And it also allows us to really have an expansive outdoor space here and have a pretty expansive outdoor green roof on the second level of this phase 1 building. So this would be, in our first phase, we would have a 12-story concept here. And when I say 12, it really portrays as 10 and a half from the street side, again, because we have the half-story above grade from the lower level garage. And then it drops down to a 7-story concept here adjacent to the next phase 2 building that would remain at the 7 stories. Again, our density is about the same here, and you would probably ask why that would be if you're going up to 12 stories, and it's just a function of the unit size. In the pink portion of this building, average unit sizes grow from what we have in that 15 to 1,600 square foot range. In that first concept we looked at, they grow up to about 1,800 square feet, so a little bit larger, which we have to have more square footage to accommodate them. Same type of amenities, finishes, quality that we saw in the other one. Here's a massing diagram perspective to give you a perspective on what that would look like adjacent to the other uses, and then a first floor. So same kind of concept where we have ground level units, walkouts, really kind of creating that townhome type of concept with connectivity to the park areas, and then the Park Lawn Avenue access points too. Again, here's a perspective of the stacking plan for the project. We also took this one, obviously you see with the taller building, that December to March timeframe, the shadows cast much further off of the 12-story component of the project. However, what was interesting is that it does tend to fall short as it reaches to the most northeast portion of the adjacent properties, but nonetheless, it does cast a little more. So tonight with you, from a completed project stat, so as we looked at both concepts, we're generating between 250 to 300 units in age-restricted housing in totality. We've got about 476 total parking stalls, with 422 of those being structured parking for the housing, another 54 for guest vendor parking. We've got 2 different types of concepts to evaluate. I think when these are done, there's a pretty significant tax base increase to the area. A lot of revitalization with this site just due to the way that it's used today compared to how we would transition it on a go-forward basis. We do feel like the introduction of density here is in alignment with the comp plan. We know that there are some conflicts there between zoning ordinance. And then as we look at the PUD considerations versus variance considerations, I think Carrie, set it up perfectly. It's height, lot area, and then usable lot area that I'd love to get some feedback on tonight.
Thank you very much. Should we start with questions in case those are important to comments? Anybody have any questions? Paul? Oh, sorry.
I have a couple of questions for you. So on the proposed plans, and we can, this is my, you want to go back to the proposed plans, the ones with color on them, with the orange and the pink? Yeah. Okay, thank you. There they are. So that orange and the pink are what's above that base, above the parking base and the walkout. So all of the little gray hatches around the outside are the walkout units?
That's exactly right. So those are thought to simulate ground level patios.
Okay, so that courtyard in phase 1 is 15 feet above grade?
Approximately, yes.
Okay. And that's the same in both, that the courtyard or?
Correct. Yeah, so as we go back to the other first concept, smaller courtyard, but same concept. It's an elevated courtyard there, correct.
And then that walkway between the 2 phases is at grade or above grade?
That is at grade.
That's at grade. And then around is at grade?
Correct.
Okay. That's it for now.
Other questions? Bonnie?
Yeah, for Carrie, what are the number of units in the Fred and the Finch?
The total number of units?
In each one? I'm just wondering how they compare.
I can look that up quick. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. And I'm wondering why have you chosen, or are you currently doing over 55 in particular?
Well, we've seen it as a demographic it's a growing demographic with a high need for basically the opportunity to transition within their communities. What we've seen in our Minnetonka project, it's a lot of age within the community or the surrounding nearby communities where they've lived there for a long period of time. They're still in their single family home, but they haven't chosen that opportunity to move out of that home yet because of either A, they don't have the product type that they want, or it's not in a location that they like. And it's a product type too that we as an operator can operate at a higher level as well. You know, they tend to pay a higher level of rent than a typical market rate building. So
That was my next question.
Yeah.
What are you anticipating the rents would range?
yeah, so our rents would range in between $2,000, and then the very largest units could go upwards of the $5,000 to $7,000 a month.
And there's space in the garage, I assume, is where you'd have moving vans and things like that, and all that would be.
Correct.
There's ample space for that.
Yeah, we have opportunity to stage if we have semis or things of that nature, which we do get from time to time. We have the ability to stage them out here at the front of the building during move-in time frames, and then bring them in through there. We could bring them in through a front portion here of the building as well. But as we work through, if we were to proceed forward, we'd work through more refinement on those aspects.
Thanks, and thanks for your presentation.
I want to follow up on Commissioner Padilla's question about the Fred and the Finch number of units, because both the Fred and the Finch are 1.5 F floor area ratio, which is, and they're both PUDs, right?
That's correct. The Finch is 276 units, and I'm still searching the other.
And this would be 1.0 floor area ratio, so this would be a little less dense on this site than the Fred and Finch are on their sites, just by the FAR ratio to the site. And so this goes with the density of this matches our comp plan. Does our comp plan have any height requirements in it?
Comp plan does not have height.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Carrie, could you talk a little bit more about the PUD? You sort of, I think I heard you say that it would be more challenging because it's a single use?
Yes. When you look at all of the PUD criteria, for a single-use apartment building, that's where Planning Commission and Council have concluded over the last several years that it's difficult to meet all of those PUD criteria that are spelled out in the code to justify a PUD. It's more encouraged for larger projects, mixture of uses, those kind of things.
But the Fred and the Finch were PUD, even though they're single use.
Correct.
Got it.
Although I should say the Finch has a small little retail component to it, similar to the Maison Green here across the street.
Can I have one question for the applicant? How long have you been operating your project in Minnetonka?
It will open May 1, which we'd welcome. You know, I think if we were to proceed forward with the project here, you know, we'd very much welcome it to come over and take a look at it.
Got it. Have you built similar projects in sort of a similar socioeconomic kind of demographic that you've already opened and operated for a number of years?
Yeah, we typically develop at the peak of the Class A market rate apartment building operation. So that's where we've primarily worked. So they have rents that we will get up to levels of what we have in here in this building. and what we have in our Minnetonka building. I would say probably one of the more similar projects that we've managed as an operator and developed consultant on was Lorient here in Edina off of France. And it very similar type of socioeconomic.
But that's not age restricted,
It
correct?
is not age restricted.
Okay, and just as a point of reference, similar model, I guess, than compared to like the Avador?
Very similar, I would say, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Fred has 404 units. Yeah, the BKV team designed that project.
Other questions? Quincy?
Thank you for the presentation, Josh. Just a couple questions just to understand the differences in the options. So option one is certainly different than option two. Option two, there's a much larger courtyard and it goes up to 12 stories, it looks like. Just give us some philosophy why such a difference between the two options. Like, what was the design idea between them?
Yeah. Well, to be just totally straightforward, you know, when we have been looking at concept two, we initially started looking at that concept as a for sale product. We went down that path for quite a while, investigated it, the market depth, this location for a for sale product. We didn't necessarily get as favorable feedback as we initially thought. So we have evaluated that site as well, that site plan as well as a rental product. And really the premise behind it is that concrete construction obviously drives a premium, and if we were to do a for sale product, we'd want it to be concrete from a warranty standpoint, et cetera, longevity standpoint, sound, et cetera, just the quality of the construction that you get back from that. What we are finding is that the amount of pre-sales that you would need for a project of that size, the financing, plus the demand at this site versus other sites that may be more well-positioned in Edina for sale condo product, makes this probably a B for sale product, or B for sale site versus some of the more A plus sites for that type of product. So I think that the risk profile it was just a little too much for what we were probably willing to bite off. However, I would say that, you know, what we have seen is that when you do the higher quality construction, do a concrete type construction, you do drive a premium rent for that type of product, which what we are going to analyze right now, can we overcome the premium in cost to go to that type of a product? We're not totally sold that we can get there yet, but it is a piece that we are evaluating as part of this.
Thank you for sharing some of those insights. Yeah, the economics is what I'm looking at. In terms of the square footage, what's the average square footage? I think you mentioned maybe 1,500 to 1,600 on option one.
Yeah, in option one, and then as you go in the wood frame options, those would be 1,500 to 1,600 square feet for the units. In the concrete option, which is really just this pink section here, those units there would average closer to 1,800 square feet.
Okay. And in terms of, the 55 plus, I would assume a little bit here that they're downsizing to some degree from their homes to something a bit smaller. If you were to build a product that's just say less than 1,600 feet, how small would you go for that to still be marketable, valuable for your team?
As far as overall unit sizes on an average standpoint?
Yeah.
So our project in Minnetonka averages right around 1,300 square feet. I would say what we are learning up there is we'd probably do less one bedrooms. So we have some 730 square foot and 787 square foot one bedrooms. We would do more 1,000 square foot one bedrooms that just have a little more breathing room and space within them. So that's why we've pushed our unit sizes up with this design, and then what we're doing in Woodbury as well. Just I think our units there, the smaller ones, which are always the slowest ones to lease, we would do less of those here, and so we can accommodate people that either have an office type of use with a 2-bedroom, so they use it like a 1+ den, or they use it as a secondary bedroom for visitors, family members, and whatnot.
Gotcha. All right. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thanks.
Jimmy?
Thank you for being here. I guess first and foremost, I appreciate both options, breaking up the site in two. It's kind of just in line with what we hope to see around the Southdale area in terms of making it walkable, getting it closer to kind of those urban design principles. So appreciate both options like that. In terms of both options, what is your guys' favorite and why?
Yeah, well, I would say concept one is our favorite, I guess, if we had to say of either. We know that concept one is executable. It's a product that we are building that is market acceptable right now. And I think the thing is we have such great construction here in Minnesota, with the various groups that build here. And I think you see that across the market where even in our wood frame construction buildings, they're built to such a high quality. They're doing and fitting and finishing those buildings as well as any of the high-rise buildings. And I think that is why you see the rents in a typical wood frame construction building very similar to that of a concrete building. There is a premium typically with the concrete, but not as much of a gap as you would say. I would say this one too has just some more interest to it for me. I think with the various jots in it, the stepping back and coming to throughout the site plan. So I would say that, and I think it also feels a little more approachable. I think that's one of the things that we've heard in a real positive sense at our Minnetonka project is, while it's a 4-story building, it looks like a 2-story building when you approach it because we stepped it back at the front, and then it jumps to 3 in the front part of the building where the back goes to 4. And I think that scale is a very, very important part to this demographic too, and what we've seen in talking to other operators and owners here in the metro of what people really appreciated about some of these smaller scale projects. So I think scale-wise, it's the concept that I really am attracted to.
In terms of your response there, what do you perceive to be the front and the back and the side?
Yeah. Well, definitely the arrivals up here, right? For as people coming to the site to visit, whatnot. This really feels like we did a concept like this in Champlin along the Mississippi riverfront. It's called the Bowline at Mississippi Crossings, where we actually were across the streets from some other residential homes that actually bordered the river. But we did these townhome style concepts. So they're flats, but they look like a townhome. They have a stoop. It kind of gives you a front yard concept, which I think is really unique, and it gives you that front access, front entrance. We put swing doors in all these units so they can lock them and go out with their dogs or go for a walk, whatever they may. Depending on how the interaction could occur over here at the park, I think that could be a really unique area as well. I think that's a conversation we'd really like to have with the Parks Department to make sure that we're responsibly reflecting what they're trying to do there and make sure that everything integrates together. But yeah, I think to the south here, so that was a long way of saying, the south is for sure where everybody arrives. We have kind of these plaza concepts out here at each corner for that arrival location. But I do think that, this facade along Park Lawn and then along the park, they kind of have their front yard concepts to them, and the north units as well.
Are there any preliminary soils information you know of that is forcing your hand in some sort of orientation or site layout, or is it in general just the elevation that's binding that right now?
Yeah, just the elevation right now. And then we are assuming, working with BKV and their experience over at the Fred, we're assuming very similar soils and water table heights compared to that. Obviously, we'll, if we were to proceed here, we'll take those next steps and do the various investigations, but that's what we've assumed at this point.
Have you guys looked into and taken into account the layout of the Fred Richards Park redesign?
We are not fully integrated with that at this point. I will tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I know you mentioned it in terms of parking. That being a fluid number, it seems like you're overparked, but in a conservative way. Obviously, if you can rein the parking in, you can save costs. How flexible are you there to get closer to like a 1 per unit or 1.5 per unit instead of 2?
Yeah, so right now we're at about 1 per bedroom. What we are seeing at the Minnetonka project, again, so our urban stuff parks about 0.8 per bedroom. Our suburban product is really at that 1 per bedroom, our typical market rate projects. What we're seeing at our Minnetonka project, and I think others in this space would also echo what we're seeing, but we're seeing closer to like a 0.9 per bedroom occupancy rate on the parking. So with that being said, you would say that we have about a 10% slide in here that we could probably work with on each building. So roughly 20, I think it was 20, let's see here. I had the parking stats on one of these slides. Let me get back over here. It's not that direction. We have about a 20 stall, I think a 20 to 25 stall. Yeah, there we go. About a 21 stall.
And where is that fluid? I mean,
It would
looks
be
like you
within
have
the
50,
garage.
okay.
Yeah, it
So
would be
you don't
within
want to
the
give
garage.
up your surface lots, your surface stalls in front?
I think we could. So we've done this before where we have actually guest parked a certain portion of the project inside. We would need to create, kind of another garage door for then the residents to go through once they're inside. That is one area that I think if we could tighten it up, if we could get all those stalls in the building and we felt comfortable that we'd still be acceptable in the marketplace, I think it'd be another opportunity for more green space.
I think most of mine are comments, but I guess tied to the parking. Just the current redesign has a lot of parking in the park, like right to the left of your project, where
Yes, yeah.
if guests are coming, I mean, likely maybe they're visiting to do both. So maybe you can offset it by using what's there. But I'll save the rest for comments, but that's all I had for questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? I just had one, excuse me, for staff. Carrie, I'm assuming that the 2022 multifamily affordable policy does not apply here, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, if there are no more questions, we can, Mary Mother?
Can you show us the shadow studies again?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's concept one. So again, just to remind you, the layout of concept one, the 2 7-story buildings. Primary time, this December to March timeframe window, early morning, mid-afternoon, late afternoon. And then I'll go to concept 2 for you here too, and I can flip back to wherever you'd like. So again, similar type of result here, December to March timeframe, early morning, midday, then late afternoon.
All right, who'd like to start with comments? You can also ask a question if you need to. Paul? We'll just go down the line.
Yeah, just a few quick comments. Thank you again for your presentation. I'm generally in favor of it. I like how the layout. Again, I don't have a lot to say about the product type, 55 plus. That's your choice. You're the developer. I don't know the market for that. I would guess the market, the people that actually move there are substantially more than 55. But again, that's your choice, and that's fine with me. I certainly prefer the 7-story concept as opposed to the 12-story. I think the pushback you'll hear is probably just going to be height in general. Nobody's going to want height, but at least the 7-story I think ties out with the Fred and Finch that you have. Just to the west, the additional courtyard space you get with the 12-story probably isn't that. It's nice to have on site, but since you're next to the park, it probably doesn't have as much need for that additional plaza area on site, since you're going to be that close to the park. Just a curious thing, I'm always curious, would you have an outdoor pool as the concept here?
Yeah, each building would have its own pool, correct?
And just how, I mean, just looking at that shade, well, obviously you're not going to have the pool open in December or in March, but just how that lays out with having usually you would think that the opening would be to the south versus the opening to the north. And again, that's just a design factor that's not for me to comment on necessarily, but just I always find that curious when you're blocking the southern sun from that area. Other than that, I like the concept. I understand there's some variances we need to look through, but in my mind, it looks like a great product and project. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree that I think it's a great project. I think it will fill up. I don't know, do you have any figures on what percentage of Fred or the Onyx or other like relatively new properties are over 55, are occupied by your demographic?
I wouldn't know that specifically. I can tell you from some of the suburban projects that we've recently done, we are seeing about it's actually, our Shoreview stuff is higher. It's about a 25% proportion of our occupancy up there, and those are 3 200-unit buildings. And then there is no 55 plus opportunities in those communities. Our recently opened Eden Prairie project is probably closer to like a 10 to 12% mark, and that's a 237-unit building, so roughly 20. Our Minnetonka project's just about 60% pre-leased prior to opening here in May. And our average age is not 55 there. I think we all know that that's kind of the entry point to those projects. But what we are seeing is our competitors are all very well occupied at basically 95% across the board.
And would you have any kind of shuttle service, like to the senior center, to the market, or anything like that?
Yeah, we would not in a building like this. So it'd be a non-service building.
Okay, all right, and that part of that answer goes to the parking issue. I think so. You're assuming that everybody's either taking the bus or a bicycle or their own vehicles, because there's not a grocery store in walking distance, or medical facilities. So it would be nice if you could, get that parking down a bit. And I'm also not sure if I guess you would probably figure out it might be a challenge with people going to the park and trying to park in guest parking and stuff. But I think each plan has its advantages. Certainly, I'm not as concerned about the courtyard since you're on the park. But I like the terraced idea. But I understand that the height is an issue. But I generally think it's a great project. So I'd like to see you go forward and have us deal with all these variances.
Yeah.
Oh, me. I know. Gosh, I have to consolidate my thoughts quicker here. Tough. Well, I just want to say, first and foremost, like I did before, thank you for being here. This is for what we're seeing at a sketch plan and all of the considerations you've brought to the table so far. Really appreciate it. It's been great. So I feel like we're off to a really good foot and a good start here in terms of like civic engagement and where we're at in this process. So I too share a sentiment of wanting to see this get done. In terms of the product, the offering, and the overall concept, I think it's great. So process-wise, whether it's a PUD, I think I'd support just more variances on the MDD if we can keep it just in that for, I guess, whatever's cleaner. I think both are going to be a little messy. And then some of the requirements for a PUD might just fundamentally not apply. So I don't think we should necessarily go that way unless there's better reason down the aisle here. So the site configuration, as I mentioned, I think that's key to my general support of what you're proposing here. Breaking the building and the lot into two is huge. And I'll get into kind of the layout a little later. One of the questions I had was, which way does it face? And some of that is because these buildings are behind other buildings. It's accessible off a different road. But I think if you look at the layout of the park, and that really will be the signature like feature, I think that will be the way in which most people will come to notice your buildings and really appreciate them, is from the vantage point of the park. So in terms of even reorienting the buildings and the layout between the two options, I think you might be surprised if you look at the layout of the park and where you want to focus some features. And I think I share option one as a preferred as well. I think maybe I could get by with or get support of the taller, more slender one, but I think where that is in terms of what is right there in the park, it just doesn't make as much sense. I think it will create like this huge wall that you see right there that won't help you out. So I'm pretending in my mind we're going through option one with some of the rest of these comments. Having a bigger courtyard, as Commissioner Padilla mentioned, I think that benefits the residents maybe only. And the shadow study, I think, is okay as it is. So in terms of if you kept things in the same layout as we're seeing right now, I'd be interested in some sort of terracing back from the two projections. And if you did that or even reoriented that where the phase one is maybe facing more to the left, then at least the terracing would have an advantage of getting, south-facing sun more throughout the day, where that might be better. In terms of accessing the buildings for parking, I think that's good. If you can keep the parking to accessing the building on the right side of phase one instead of the left side, I think you could, and you're willing to get rid of all that surface parking, the connection to the Fred doesn't occur there anymore. So at least from the plan that I'm seeing, it's kind of a parking lot that goes up next to the site, but it's access to the west. Yeah. So being able to, like, from what you're showing from a basic site plan of having all that kind of that connection and your drive lane going all the way through there, I think it's unnecessary. And instead, you could have, there is like a sidewalk connection. You could have a much more pronounced sidewalk experience on that south side. And again, that'll get all the sun. So you could have some of your own gardens and amenities that just look nicer there. And keeping that path like a figure eight around your buildings would be important for me to see without, driveways cutting in front of it. So, so the pedestrian's not crossing across it, but a car occasionally does, would be better. So I mean, I like what I'm seeing of you guys showing all these walk-up units surrounding the building and kind of this meandering path. I think that's going to be great. And then in terms of like a northwest connection to kind of the park and some of the green space, I would just, I guess, reach out to the city and see what type of connections could be made from your sidewalk to the parking and some of these other amenities, because it'll just make it easier for residents to get right to the park.
Right.
And I don't see it now, but some of that's because you don't have the park plan laid out there. But yeah, I love the concept of the walk-ups, having front doors. It's like eyes on the street, just makes it brings down the scale of the buildings. And you got a great architect on board that, you did this building right over here, and that looks very nice. So I think what we have the advantage of here is like an exceptional like public realm that connects to the park. So however you can incorporate that, or if it's like reorienting or terracing some of those some of the height back from the park, I think that'll help. But overall, really great. Excited to see the actual plan when you submit it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I think Jimmy got some of the points I wanted to cover in terms of orientation as well. Certainly like option 1, much more than option 2, with the massing and the height. I think the orientation, you could certainly play around with that idea. I think that would be really helpful. I love all the features that you're building into the property, make it a high quality product, something that people would really enjoy and really, you know, have a very comfortable time living there. I was just thinking, instead of the height as option 2, if you had taken a risk and did something with the design, keep it to 7 feet, but maybe, 7 stories, and all over if it's even possible, but maybe play with different heights, like grading down to the park or something like that might be interesting to look at. Option 1 is still a good option, you know, but it's all one height. Having something a little bit more dynamic, I think, in that space might be interesting as well to consider. But overall, I think it's a really good concept, and yeah, hope to see it again. Thank you.
I'm of two minds about the phase scheme 1 or scheme 2. At first, I really liked the ability you kind of physically brought between the park and the open air for the taller building, that there was more space, air, between phase 1 and phase 2, and it felt like the park was coming into the development, and I really liked that until I realized that it was a private courtyard and that there were the walk-ups all the way around. I still kind of like the amount of space between phase 1 and phase 2. I think the Weston is 18 stories, which is 6 stories taller than this one. But I think I would like the 12 stories more if there was something, like Commissioner Smith was saying, a way to kind of bring it down into the park, which I don't think you're interested in because of your parking structure. So, because of that, I think I'm probably going to play it more safe and go with phase 1. I too would, I agree with all the orientation questions of my fellow commissioners, and I'm wondering if there's a way to kind of strengthen the sidewalk, as Commissioner Bennett said, but also strengthen the sidewalk on the north-south between phase 1 and phase 2, and strengthen it across that drive aisle and to the street. Yeah, all the way, like if there's like a raised, just a little raised area and that drive aisle, so that's all kind of continuous straight to the south. And agree that kind of a strong boulevard sidewalk on that south side would help if that is your front face. And I think architecturally you can solve the 4 faces issue. I think that's okay. So I'm in favor of it. It matches our comp plan. That is good. We've got some variances in terms of the height, but it is the same height as the Fred and the Finch. They're 7 and 8 stories, so this is in line with those. Your setbacks are all per our new city standard, and so the density is our current city standard, but the comp plan is okay with more density. So it kind of goes with our comp plan, and our zoning is 50 years old, so I'm completely comfortable with that as well. And I think that's it for me. Thank you. I appreciate your presentation. Yeah, go
I've got
ahead.
one quick question. So I want to make sure that I've got clarity on this. So if we are able to get comfortable getting that surface parking inside and to create this boulevard concept, are you liking that boulevard on the south side of the drive aisle or the boulevard closer to the building as we look at that? So the drive aisle would be south, I guess, of the boulevard if it was up adjacent to, obviously this would all get reworked down here. Let's say these parking stalls go away, we pull this boulevard or the drive aisle away from the building coming in. And, if we had a boulevard, would we want it up here or would you rather have it here on the south side of this drive lane?
So,
I guess it all depends on how it connects, I suppose, to the park as well.
sure. I think that sidewalk boulevard will feel more, the public is going to walk on it too, because it's a sidewalk.
Yeah.
And that's what people do. I want a sidewalk in front of my house. I'd be completely okay with everybody walking on it because I think it's safer. So I'm not going to call it my property. So I think it's the same thing here. I think a larger, more comfortable sidewalk would make everybody more comfortable. Even if you turn the cars so they're kind of parallel and you can get like an extra 5 feet in there would be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah, so much for your presentation. In my past life, I developed senior living, so I'm going to try to take that brain out. I love that you're pushing larger units. I love that you have so many walk-ups. I think that's great for the demographic. I would echo other comments about reducing parking, moving parking inside. I guess one of my questions for you to think about, I'm not afraid of the height or the PUD, as outnumbered as I might be. I think people want to understand what, or I would want to understand what would help make the project successful if there was an ownership component to it. I think we have a lot of rental housing across the age spectrum, most of it within the last 5-8 years. I think understanding how to serve this group, and historically that population hasn't lived in rental housing. There's, not necessarily an aversion, but that's a transition that they've never made necessarily in their lives before, and I think we just in general need more owner-based housing. I like the comments about right now, to me, both phase 1 and phase 2 feel like they don't connect with the park, and I think probably the advantage of this site and why it's attractive is that future engagement, both from views, but interconnectivity with the community, the walkability. So I guess looking at it, I would lean towards maximizing the connectivity with the broader community and making this feel like it is an extension of, or sort of the prime location adjacent to the park, and capitalize on that open space and not so much concern themselves with the exterior amenities as much that you might have to if you weren't right next to the park, I guess. And then I get just another thing that you probably are prepared to speak to, but understanding most people in the 55 plus buildings are not 55, they're more like 75. And as we see our population aging, whether it's rental or ownership, there are different care needs and different turnover rates than non-age restricted apartments. Just being able to speak to long-term, if this is 2 separate phases and 2 separate financings and packages and constructions, right? We're a number of years out before phase 2 would open. How do we talk about those people who want to age in place, but maybe are not downsizing until a moment in time where they can't age there for very long? So just thinking about that, because that brings with it then all of the additional traffic from staffing and ambulances and dining and all of the things that go with it. But I can see that being a line of questioning and a thought to try to understand how that building will age and evolve.
Yeah, right. I think that's a really good point. And how do these transition over the next? We were having that conversation 2 days ago of just what does it look like 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now? Is this is it still getting used the same? And how are the buildings going to have to adopt? And we know it's not, right? It's
Right,
always
I was
be
going to say it's not,
changing, right?
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that is part of this, this whole planning process that we're going to be going through. And I don't know that I have the exact answer today. And
For sure. And presumably as phase one opens, leases up, that'll influence the direction of
100%.
phase two. So I guess that is also why for a project this scale that can add this, this density in the comp plan in this premium location, I am excited by a really good design that really creates the placemaking that we want. And then we'll work to get through the variances and to get through the other hurdles needed to make sure that it's the right project for the space, both phase one and then phase two.
right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
But thank you for not only building studios.
We're trying to get away from them.
Thanks, Josh and BKV Group for putting this together. It's an exciting project. It's cool. I'll try and come up with some original comments, being last in line here. My first planning commission meeting too, by the way, so go easy.
Welcome.
Thanks. Regarding the two options, I guess it seems like more of a response to the market demand and construction pricing than anything, so I don't have a desire to weigh in there. Yeah, the height doesn't scare me either, I guess. Tall buildings are cool. I drove by there today. It's exciting. It seemed the city invested in Fred Richards Park. I don't know the details of it. I think it's under construction. There were concrete trucks there. And so this seems like kind of a return on investment for the city to a certain extent. And that's beneficial for everyone. There's another developer in town with some local roots, I'll say. Their motto is "We build stories," and that's always stuck with me. And so there's been some other comments about incorporating, tipping your hat to the Fred Richards Park, just to build a bit of a story there. Yeah, you guys were just talking about stick frame building, 50-year life cycle. What happens halfway through that? What happens when the silver tsunami, continues on? So you're thinking about it. Sanitary, everyone's favorite topic. It's a lot of new toilets. I don't know where the city's at with that, but maybe something to consider. Is there an easement needed on the south side, maybe, for access to the park? You guys are all over it, I'm sure. That was just a random thought I had. Yeah, no, big supporter of it. It's a great project, big investment. So we'll see where it goes. Best of luck.
Thanks for joining us tonight. It's a really exciting project. I just had a couple things to add. I think, like most of the rest of the group, I preferred concept one just because it fits in better with the existing landscape. Although, to build on Commissioner Hahnemann's point, if concept two enabled an ownership model for part of the project, I think we'd want to know about that. I certainly would, if that enabled that sort of thing. I'm glad you showed the picture of the current condition, because that really foot stomps the compliance of this project with the comprehensive plan development guidelines, just of upgrading existing streetscape and building, improve pedestrian environment, and a few other parts of the project that really, it's easy to imagine how the park and the area would be a better place for the community with a project like this going in. For myself, I don't think this is a good PUD candidate, if for no other reason than we've said as a city that we're going to try to do less of that. But I think there's other reasons to try to avoid that, and that I think the classical view would be that a PUD should be for geographically defining much larger scale projects like a West End rather than a particular parcel. And also where, say, the innovation or the flexibility of a project really makes it hard for normal zoning. This is normal zoning. We can fix this with normal zoning. So I just don't think we need that. When you come to the next stage, you're on a bike path, which is a jewel of the city. So we'll be interested to see exactly how the residents are going to get to the bike path and make that as easy as possible. I think that's all the comments I had. Really great to hear about it, and we're looking forward to hearing more.
Well,
Thanks for
thank you
coming
very much
tonight.
for your feedback.
Jimmy?
Just want to add a couple things because you had a question about kind of the street on the south side, if you could remove the parking. Thinking about that after you said that, I think to clarify, and maybe it'd be good to get other support, but like Commissioner Felt said, I think it'd be better to have that sidewalk closer to the building. And if you had parking or the drive aisle on the other side, just to keep people safe with how few times people are probably actually entering or exiting.
Right.
And then with the southwest corner, you mentioned at some point earlier about having like community gardens. I don't know if you'd have it up on a courtyard, but being on the south side of the building, having open air, you could almost wrap your sidewalk like around a garden or some sort of, something in that southwest corner, because you won't need to dedicate that to a drive path anymore. And then that would allow your sidewalk to get closer to the park connection. And then if all this helps bring the building farther south to kind of open it up on the north side. And then to Commissioner Felt's point, I know we've seen like 8 feet is like a nice wide sidewalk, but I'd push you, like if you're removing pavement here, like go for 10 feet. That allows the multimodal traffic that you'll likely see around the building, someone on a bike, someone walking, because if you're creating nice connections to the east or even the south, people are just going to take your sidewalks as if it's part of the park.
Right.
So
Right.
that was all I want to add. Thank you.
And that brought up something else I forgot to mention. This could go on all night. We have a project, an apartment project under construction in the city right now, a big building that has no surface parking at all. So the bar has been raised. So the more you can do to get rid of those 54, or as many of those 54 spots as you can, I think most people will find that attractive. Thanks again for coming. Oh, another one? Oh, do you have something? Okay. No, thought we were done.
All right,
Thank
you
you.
very much.
All right. Next item on the agenda is also a sketch plan review for 5201 Grandview Lane. And Director Teague will start the conversation for us. Did I say doctor? Director. I think it's more an enunciation than.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Members of the commission, another sketch plan review for you. This one is located at 5201 Grandview Lane. This is in the Grandview district, just west of City Hall here. This map shows the zoning of the site. It's currently zoned R2 double dwelling unit district. Wanted to point out in this area, so that as you can see, there's a variety of zoning districts here. To the west, we've got a high density, it's an apartment to the west, and to the east, another high density zone that's also an apartment. And we've got the R2 zoning here. One thing that's unique about the site, the 2 apartment buildings gain access off of Vernon Avenue. However, this Grandview Lane, in order to access this development, you need to come through the neighborhood. So these apartments are not accessed through the neighborhood, which is probably the reason the zoning is less. And within the comprehensive plan, this next map here, you can see the site is guided for low density attached residential, where the adjacent properties are zoned high density. Again, likely because of that access. This map here is showing that this I believe it's 52nd Street is connected to Vernon. It is not. So in order to access this, you do need to go through the neighborhood to the north. So the proposal here is to tear down that an existing duplex on the corner there of 52nd and Grandview Lane and build 4 units of townhomes. The rendering on the screen shows what those would look like. This next slide is the site plan showing 52nd Street and Grandview Lane. Access would be gained off of a private drive off of 52nd. This next slide shows the proposed development, the site plan in context with the neighborhood. So you can see the duplexes on Grandview Lane here, some of the adjacent ones, and then the footprint of the 4 townhomes. So looking at our zoning compliance table, they would need variances for setbacks on all 4 sides. Building height would be code compliant. A building coverage would exceed our building coverage. This would assume a rezoning that would be required for this project to PRD 3. The lot area per dwelling unit, again, this is it doesn't meet the density that's required for this zoning district. The comprehensive plan guides this for 8 units per acre. It's the 2 units that exist there today. And this would, with 4 units, the density would increase to 13 units an acre. And that actually falls into our high density classification. So any formal application would require an amendment to the comprehensive plan to re-guide this site to high density. And then as well as the rezoning to PRD 3 with these variances. So with that, I will conclude my presentation and invite the applicant up to provide a little more detail.
My name is Elizabeth. I go by Lisa McDonough, and I'm kind of sad to be here because I absolutely adore our twin home. My husband Peter and I lived there for many years. It's a mid-century modern, and it's got all the mid-century modern details that I love so much. But we have had an interesting go recently. We are both of us are between a rock and a hard place. We began working on the building about 2 years ago when it emptied, and when 5201 emptied, and we repainted new garage doors, we put a new sidewalk in, we put all new windows in. And I was confident that there was nothing we couldn't fix reasonably. Then we moved inside the building, and the problem immediately became the bathrooms. We punched some holes in the walls in the bathrooms. It was the original 50s tile. And we found extensive rot in the subfloor, in the joists underneath the subfloor. The 2x4s in the walls were rotted almost up to about a foot. And we were going to retile them. I'd even purchased the great 50s 4x4, 5x5 tiles in aqua blue, and I was going to do a pink and gray bathroom again. Anyway, I'll stop. But we can't rent it. What happened was the amount of money it's going to take us to bring that up to potentially leave it to our daughters is just a no-go. We'd be like 150 years old before we ever got that money back. And now we can't rent one side. And it's been empty for almost 3 years now. So we're here with phase 2 or plan B or whatever you want to call it. And what Peter and I did was we went back to Dene Homes and partnered with them to do what we did on Hankerson Avenue and proposed, Jimmy was part of that, proposed some townhomes for the site. So I'm going to let Steve Banke take over, but I wanted you to know that we're not here because we were hoping for something different, but there you have it. Thanks, Steve.
Good Good evening, Steve Benke with Donnie Homes. Wanted to bring this aerial photo up first because I think it really shows how much of an orphan this area is with the surrounding apartment buildings. You know, we've got 3, 4, 5-story buildings all the way around us. You've heard me talk about this before because we had a 3-unit project in several years ago. Honestly, we've been before you for this area with townhomes for about 8 years. We did get the other project approved, but we started looking at townhomes in this part of the city in 2018. We're still waiting for the study that was discussed back then. We're still waiting for townhome zoning. None of those things really seem to be coming along here, and we really feel that those can't be a reason why a landowner can't improve the property, especially with the situation that the McDonoughs are in. As Carrie pointed out, you know, currently it's guided for low density, but the density is actually medium. There's 6.7 units an acre on the site right now, and that is in the medium classification. So the ask isn't to go from low density to high density. It's to go from the actual density out there that's medium to high density. And it's interesting that adding 2 units to a 2-unit building takes you to high density. But that's the math that you get by taking the number of units by the acreage. The product is something that we wanted to work from the work that we already did on Hankerson. It's not an identical building. It's just slightly smaller in overall square footage. The building's a little wider and a lot shorter. But we do love the alley situation that we had on Hankerson. So the private drive that we want to bring in off of 52nd Street helps keep the traffic off of Grandview. It's 2 parking spots per unit enclosed. Guest parking is on the street. Units themselves, 2,800 square foot max finished on 3 floors, one of which is the basement. You know, there's nothing really earth-shaking about them. They are very standard plan-wise, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, living, dining, kitchen, but they fit the demand. Hankerson sold as we finished them, literally, and the absorption of those units was very quick. The product here has a similar traditional style at this point. We do feel it fits the neighborhood. These units are 2-story from the street. The bulk of the units as you continue down Grandview are either 2-story or 1.5 stories. They're split entries or they're 2 stories. So I think that it fits in. This is the only building that's currently a Rambler on the whole block. So I think we fit the neighborhood very well. I think we're establishing a pattern for the future redevelopment of this area. This building is 73 years old. The rest of them are in the 60s. Some of them are well-kept, some of them are not so much. I do think that we're starting to establish a way of that whole area to be redeveloped in a modestly densified solution that fits the work that was done at the city's direction of the City of Edina density study. I know that probably was never adopted as a formal policy, but it was still work that was done to benefit the city with information. I think when you read through that, if you still have it, it really talks about how this node, the Vernon node, Grandview node of Edina can benefit from additional densification. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to provide here, both with the Hankerson project and now with this one. So I'd stand for any questions.
Thanks very much for the presentation. Anybody want to start with some questions? Yes, Claire?
Could you walk me through, I'm just not sure I was tracking. It's zoned R2 now, which is 4 to 8 units per acre, but you're saying that existing density is actually...
I said it's guided low density.
Yep.
Low density is 1 to 5. This is over 5. So the guide plan is not correct in my mind. This is how I'm looking at it. it should be guided medium.
Yep.
But there's a lot of Edina, all the 50-foot lots are all medium density, but they're all guided low density. And we had that discussion on Hankerson as well. So it's just a reminder that Edina is denser than it seems when you look at the guide plan that was created, as you pointed out, 50 years ago.
When you say the Hankerson, sorry, just so I can orient, was that the 2 standalone homes that you came and you went to do 4 patios and then it became 3? No, or
it's the 8 townhomes
8
adjacent
townhomes,
to that.
okay.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry, yeah, you weren't here when that came through, but
I could provide
we developed it,
Yep.
and like I said, quite successfully. The other 2 houses, that's the 3 that we turned it into 3 houses. One of those is under construction right now. There's another one being discussed for construction. So the absorption there, I think, is going to happen the same way. It's just a little bit different product because it's single family.
Yep.
And that one, of course, we were not able to continue a higher density up the street. Where here, I think, turning the corner into this R2 area that's surrounded by the PRD3s, I do think it starts to establish a pattern for the redevelopment through this area.
Absolutely.
Just to provide a little clarification on the density ranges in the comprehensive plan. So this is guided low density attached, and the range for that land use category is 4 to 8 units per acre. The medium density residential, and this is where the conflict comes in, medium density residential is classified as 5 to 12 units an acre.
Right.
So that's something that we'll want to take a look at with the next comp plan update to take a look at these low, medium, and high density classifications.
I feel that some of that happens, when we get into discussions like this, because it kind of dilutes the water of what we're really talking about. The lack of a townhome zoning, there's nothing by right. Everything that you come in with, you have to do the PRD or a PUD, and we know how PUDs are looked at now. Obviously we were able to get a PUD with Hankerson, but that was kind of the last one. I don't mind the PRD zoning, but you can see that when you get into that and you have all these variances from what a PRD3 is, the apartment buildings next door are PRD3. And on a parcel like that, you have an easier time of meeting some of these setback requirements. Here, the setbacks are all variances because of the PRD3, but yet we're pretty much meeting the existing R2 setbacks.
So and Carrie, I don't know if you have those handy, but these proposed setbacks, that was my next question. How are they compared to other R2 homes adjacent?
Yeah, if you want to call up that graphic that shows the neighborhood in context.
I'm looking, which one? Oh, I'm sorry, this one right.
Maybe a simpler way to ask it.
It's this one right here. Okay, so our front yard setback at 30 is meeting the 30 foot that the adjacent units all have. These units are all over the place in terms of side yard setbacks.
Okay.
What we looked at is the extra right-of-way that 52nd Street has, and we looked at this also when we did the Hankerson Townhome project, that because of that extra right-of-way that exists there, the feel from the curb to the building is essentially the same if the right-of-way was smaller and the setback was larger. So we're trying to meet the setbacks that exist out there already. The existing building is actually very large as a rambler and all of the hardcover and stuff like that. So our hardcover is going up some, but it's not going up as much as you would expect. I don't have that number right handy here from before and after.
If we look at the R2 zoning standards, the only variance that would be needed would be the rear yard. That rear yard setback requirement in an R2 is 35 feet and this is 29. So it would just be that one, just on the rear.
Just with respect to setbacks.
Correct.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Jimmy?
Yeah, so I feel like some of this looks similar to that last rendition and kind of in line with your guys' look.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it before, but can you explain the need for the fencing in front, and then also there's walk-ups sidewalks, and currently there's a weird, like, half sidewalk in the front, and then, like, is there a potential to get that going?
Currently, there's a side garage, a large side garage that accesses 52nd Street. And because we are looking at keeping that additional traffic, those garage doors off of Grandview in this case, the backyards are essentially the garages. So without an alley, we are creating essentially an alley load product. With that in mind, you have to have a place for the families. And we have found that even on the Hankerson townhomes, where we had proposed fencing, and they asked us to remove it, the homeowners have gravitated toward the front yards as their living space. Having the ability to have some privacy there with a 4-foot open fence, this isn't a privacy fence by any means, it just gives a little bit of delineation that this is private space versus public space. It was acknowledged on that project later that by the council, I believe, that asking us to remove that was probably an error. And so we're continually trying to reintroduce it from the standpoint of being able to create private space in a very public setting.
Thanks for providing the context. Yeah, I'm still a fan of no fencing, mostly because it's a calm street, and if you're going to use the yard, you have more of it when you don't fence it because of the right of way. Sure. I mean, you can look, it's like 2/3 of, or, a third of the yard is unusable outside of the fence. So, and then just, there's nothing else along the street with front fences. So some of it's just like keeping in line with it. I'm okay either way, but I would just say be prepared for, I guess it sounds like the council regrets it, but it's a different council now, and they might keep it that way. I just wanted to know, because I know we've talked about it before, and I'm a fan of open spaces, but I see your struggle there.
Let me offer it this way. Let's not make the fence the issue that shoots the project down. Like,
it's
it
not
kind of happened before.
Oh, you know me better than that.
I do.
Yeah, and I have other comments that support what this is, but just wanted to understand that design feature. Otherwise, no questions.
Is it okay for me to speak, or do I need to I just have one comment about the front yards?
Sure. Well, if you're part of the applicant team, yes, you may.
Thanks. I have now 3 dogs, and I don't want to age anywhere without being able to have at least 1 dog. And I have found that comments have been like, well, I have a poodle, or and that means that when it's bitterly cold out, you can't just let your dog quick run out if you don't have a fence. We also thought about kids playing too, and especially little ones. Just to have that as an amenity, to me, felt like a good idea. And that's why we went for it on the last project too. So just to interject from a pet owner's perspective.
Other questions? No, I had one. So last time, I think you said it was a 3-unit project, and now 4. So it's maybe an obvious question, but I don't know the answer to it. Why not just build another duplex?
I think the same reason that you're not seeing new redeveloped single-family homes landing at price points that some people might feel is more reasonable. You have a lot of infrastructure to create. We're going to have to extend some sewer lines. We're going to have to extend some water lines. There are realities in redeveloping property, whether it's Edina or other cities. There's realities of redeveloping property in Edina. The costs that associate with it go directly into land costs. There's limited ways to recoup that unless you continue to add units. So if you have 2 units and your lot's going to cost you $1 million, that's $500 a lot, $500,000 a lot. If you have 4, it's $250,000 a lot. That directly goes to sales price. And amortizing the development costs against more units is always going to bring those costs down. It's not going to make it affordable by any means, because if you look at what, this was given to us at the accreditation meeting last Wednesday. In 2025, the median price of a home selling in Edina is $875,000. That's where we're putting this project right now as a starting point, because, I mean, we're hitting the median. And it's very difficult in today's labor market, material market, land cost, redevelopment, to bring in products anywhere in the Minneapolis area. I mean, the current entry-level houses are just under $500,000. Okay, you simply can't do that and get affordable housing these days. There's work trying to be done at the legislature, but we're not there. We're here. Yeah.
From a building cost perspective, are there significant code or costs that are code-driven going from a duplex to a fourplex?
Not, well, yes and no. We don't build duplexes like the old duplex. Your firewall between them is lesser in a duplex. A duplex is one building with a firewall in between.
Yep.
We build all of our product as townhomes. So we have a 2-hour, basically 2 one-hour walls in between them. That's a cost, but it's still less than having a single-family home with finished on all 4 sides.
Right, all the way around.
Yeah, you're still getting the benefit of those economies.
Thank you.
And yes, with 4, you still only have the 4 outside surfaces that you're finishing the siding with, with your finished material.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Paul Dunay, Edina, Minnesota. I think we'd probably say that with the 4-unit, we would have to sprinkle those. That might be one big difference. The sprinkling, interior fire sprinkling. So, but otherwise the construction is pretty much the same. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Is that triggered at 3 units or
Yes.
at 3 units? So
anything over 2 units in the state of Minnesota now, we have to sprinkle.
Just to continue on with that conversation a little bit more, so I'm guessing most of the houses on that block or in that area are same vintage, similar vintage?
They're younger, but by a decade.
Okay, so they're all going to face the same issues when it comes time to do something different?
Yeah, and the information I have is that, some are kept up, some have owners occupying one half, some don't. Rentals get used harder, just they do, than owner occupied. These are being proposed as owner occupied. Fee simple townhomes. Each unit would be sold. There'd have to be a small association to deal with whatever outside maintenance and things is decided to be part of that. Common outside maintenance and things like that of the building, just to keep that uniformity. But, as you go down the block, some of them have already been, had administrative lot splits. So you may have a duplex there and you still have 2 owners. Not all of them, some of them it's still one building that's, that has two families living in it.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? No, we can start with comments then. Anyone? Jimmy?
All right, comments. Woo. So first off, I generally supported the previous one, and for similar reasons. I think we have a unique, and you have a unique opportunity here to redevelop in a sensible way. I mean, we're lucky from a standpoint of existing conditions to have that side-loaded garage where there's already access off that street, and you're just shifting it and creating what could be, at least, down the road in the future, and availability for someone to connect to that private drive. If this were mid-block, this isn't even doable.
If you had more than one lot adjacent to each other, I have things floating around my head of ways of making that work.
Yeah.
But that would be, have to be dealt with at that point.
Yeah, and so, you have opportunity there,
Yeah.
and in general, if you go down that street, it's vintage, things look nice, but when you have the opportunity to make a home look like exterior 1 versus exterior 3, I think that's a win. I think just front-loaded garages, there's never a great way to make that look good with a duplex or density without just sacrificing curb appeal and kind of the bringing the activity to the front, which then goes to my comment of the fencing. And say you're friends with the next door neighbor, now you're hopping fences or you're walking all the way out to go in. So I, in general, again, support no fences. It allows you to have more space than you think. Like kids can play in the yard, you can get invisible fence for your dog. That's just where I'm at. I support what's being proposed.
Just so you
Yeah.
know, we've had a couple of different iterations. Small fence up front, small area fenced in, large yard fenced in. I think there's a lot of ability to adjust to see what makes the most sense. So.
Anyone else? Quincy?
So thank you for the presentation. A few weeks ago, I did share with this commission, I don't know if you guys have heard about the Municipal Legislative Council. It's a group of city planners across the state. I think they pull together city leaders across these 12 metro cities like Minnetonka, Ridgefield, etc. And they talk about the big issues that they want to solve for in the state, and one of them is housing. Right, housing is a real crunch across the state, but it's a massive shortage of housing, and so the group essentially thought through different strategies, and one of them is through comprehensive updates that city planners and planning commissions could look at to help increase density and to bring more houses into the state, right? So with that in mind, and with us being on a planning commission, I see this as coming into alignment with that, right? Where we have an opportunity to increase density in a modest way, right? In an area that clearly is tucked in with other high density type housing, like to the north and south, and would only develop more going inward, right? So that kind of makes sense. So from that perspective, I think it drives towards the overall housing goals and needs that we have as a state. And if we were to look at our comp plan, et cetera, and I know where there's some overlap between low density attached and medium density residential, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you're taking the perspective of it's medium density residential, and we're going to go to high density residential. Yeah. Which seems to be close, right? And it kind of makes sense to me. Right. And so I'm open to making a comp plan amendment essentially to increase the density, because that's what we could do. The shape of the space and where you're proposing to build makes sense for that to happen, and so I'm in favor of that. And so overall, I think what you're trying to do, where you're trying to do it, and the approach that you're taking, I think, is in line with what the state is trying to drive towards. So I'm favorable to this idea.
Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, just a few comments. Thanks again for your presentation this evening. There's discussion at the onset of not having access off of Vernon, and then that's certainly the case on 53rd. Obviously, I would think that you would come in off of 52nd, you'd come off of 53rd from Vernon is the access to this site. Yes, you could come off of Interlochen and down, but that would be more unlikely in my estimation. But it is a nice, quiet neighborhood. Add a little bit of traffic, especially if all these homes develop this way going forward. But again, not over the top issue there. You know, a 3-unit concept makes maybe more sense and fits the size requirements of the lot a little bit better, but again, at that cost price point, I guess I'm in favor of the for sale model you've got going, and having them not as cheap as possible, but as affordable maybe as possible makes sense. So you probably thought about the 3-unit and just.
We presented it about a year and a half ago,
Okay.
and it got generally good reviews here, not so much at council.
Okay. So again, the other thing, I just like the townhome concept, just to have more for sale homes and having owners occupy makes sense. There's more discussion of townhomes on that north side, I think, or maybe it's, I don't know which side of it, of the former Public Works site. So again, sort of in this neighborhood across Vernon, but I'm in favor of the project. Obviously, there's some variances to get through and whatnot, but I wish you well on this.
Thank you.
So good luck.
Anyone else? Bonnie?
I'll just make the same comment that I made last time that you guys made a presentation, which is, in spite of the fact that I think it's pleasing to the eye and it looks good, I would like to see more density. I think the neighborhood can handle it. I think it works, and I think it's what the city needs. So my comment is I'd like to see more density.
Can I get you on council?
Anyone else? Yes, we are. I'm sorry, I thought that was.
I really, really appreciate your investment in partnership in working with this transitional area in the city. And we have a housing crisis. Therefore we need more housing. Yeah. And yet we continue, right, as people, we continue to butt up against that. Density is scary. So I really, really appreciate the ownership model. I really appreciate the density. I love, I have visions, maybe they're the same as yours, of like that whole area sort of, slowly transitioning. I just hope you can jump up and down and scream from the rooftops about this median home, and sort of really the city of Edina says that property is worth $700 and some thousand already out the chutes, even in its condition that it's in. It's above, what 80% AMI can afford. So I think we can't talk out of both sides of our mouths, and clearly you've been on a journey with a couple of projects, and I just wanted to say thank you for bearing with us as we navigate that. It looks like a beautiful property.
Just to point out too, Paul has been redeveloping property in Edina here. I mean, obviously his dad built a significant portion back in the day, but we've been redeveloping here for 20 years. And, I think we know the market pretty well. And I hope that we continue to present things that the Planning Commission and Council can accept.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll add mine then. I'm not used to being on the other side of everybody else. Generically, I'm in favor of 4 homes instead of 2. Generically, I'm in favor of density almost always. But the thing I struggle with here is that we had a really interesting discussion tonight, and it seems like the reason that 4 units is right for this property is because that's the only way you can get enough development going on this piece of land to make all the numbers work out. So, did I misunderstand?
I think I probably left something out. The people who have been renting here, the people who we see as the market here, are families. And a certain amount of square footage is required by that. And I was hesitant to push coverage farther than what I've already gone over the current city limits. You know, I'm trying to present palatable variance requests given the situation that we need the PRD3. Okay. And that kind of limits you a little bit in terms of how far I can go. I showed Paul an idea for a 6-unit that could fit here, but it wouldn't have the same market impact. It wouldn't fit the same client that we see around the corner. You know, both the single family around the corner and the townhomes around the corner are they're either a little older or they're families with kids, and you know, you can't necessarily put them in 1,800 square feet. You know, you need the basement for the kids to play. You need the garage for this stuff. These things are all kind of facts that go with that market. Mm-hmm. So,
but I think your question really is more hits to affordability. The reason we're doing 4 units is to be able to bring those for sale type units into that $800,000 range rather than having them be at $1.2 million. That's the real reason.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess where I was going was slightly different in that my concern would be that you're increasing the development value of one lot, but not its neighbor. Because the one next door is still a duplex.
Correct.
Today.
Today, yes.
Maybe not tomorrow, but today. Until the block is turned over in some way.
But that's what happens. But that is the model with the current redevelopment single family. You're putting one house on the lot. You're putting one house on a block. You're the first one in. And this is what we did 20 years ago. We were the first one in on this block. All of a sudden, you know, 10 years later, and there's 5, there's 8. And, you know, you have to be the first one on sometimes. And Paul had the vision back then to say, hey, let's do this. And we're in that same situation here, but we're in a different type of housing now, too. You know, we've done the replace the duplex. We have one going to come in for permit in a different part of town. But at some point, you have to be the first one in to start the ball rolling.
Yeah, I see that. But I grant that definitely, particularly with the challenge for the city to rezone a whole block. Mm-hmm. Still, let's
start with just guiding it.
That's a concern. Since we're at a sketch plan, we don't have to vote tonight. It's a concern. And I mean, I don't think it's all that hard to perceive that as a fairness issue, whether or not we have a solution for it in this room or in a different room. Yeah. So that would be my main concern. But thank you for your work. I mean, we really do appreciate creative ideas to create new opportunities for families in Edina. Anyone else want to add?
I'd like to just say one more thing. You know, I'm approaching in Edina here, where I've lived for decades, close to 150 homes I've built, and out of the majority of those, they're beautiful homes, but they're expensive. They're expensive homes, and you know, this gives us the chance to give something to the community that is needed in a price range that a lot of them can afford. And then they come into the ones that I'm selling, and they can't afford it because they're $1.5 million to $3 million homes. So I think it's a good alternative on this block. On this block.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Next item is chair and member comments. Anyone? Meriwether?
Yes. I have a chair member comment. There's a lot of talk in the community at the moment about the use of bikes in the community. And so that made me think of the comp plan, the upcoming comp plan, and how we're going to approach it. And it made me think of how important that the Transportation Commission would be to that comp plan work. And I just wanted to ask Chair and City about transportation being part of that comp plan, and also like other commissions being a part of that comp plan work, so they can kind of get it on their calendars in the future.
Yes, there is a transportation chapter. We haven't set out the specific scope for the comprehensive plan yet, but if it's anything like the last go-round, every commission was involved. They each have a chapter. Whether chapters get combined or they have their separate, still to be determined, but I'm pretty confident that all boards and commissions will be involved in the comprehensive plan.
Anyone else? Quincy?
So just a brief update on the work plan item around food trucks. So Bonnie and I, we've been doing a lot of interviews. We're in phase 1. We've interviewed quite a few city staff members just to get their feedback on their experience with food trucks. We talked with the health department, the parks department, the economic development manager, and I'm missing one person. And, just collecting some really good feedback on their experiences. We still have to connect with Director Teague. We should interview you, get some of your thoughts on it. And then we're moving into phase 2 now, where we're trying to interview food truck vendors to start getting their perspectives on operating in Edina, what that process looks like, and their experiences. I thought it was going to be a lot easier to identify and get a list, but it's a little bit harder. So if you guys know any food truck vendors that operate in the city that you want to send our way, please do so, and we'll.
Much smaller population.
Yes.
Right, for food truck
Yes.
vendors.
Mm-hmm.
It's the opposite problem.
Yeah. Send them our way, and we'll get them on the schedule.
I feel like it's always in the parking lot, though, Paul.
There's
every time
also
I drive by, it's in the
cohort
parking
of
lot, so it must not
restaurant
be going out.
people that we want to talk to, and restaurant people with food trucks. That's different than just the food truck people. So, we're slicing it and dicing it, so.
So Commissioner Padilla, Commissioner Smith, is the question if we have contacts with independent food truck operators or restaurateurs who also have a food truck?
I think those are two different cohorts we would like to talk to.
But
So
both.
yes, we would like to hear names
yes to
from all
both.
those people. Thank you.
Anyone else? Jimmy?
So it appeared the city hosted an open house for the tunnel under France recently. Had quite a bit of turnout. I have nothing really to add except, in terms of infrastructure and public infrastructure, I just have to say it's an extremely irresponsible pursuit in terms of the high cost to achieve the outcome, and some of that was predicated on undesirable decisions on the development to the east and the west about how that could play out, of how you create a better crossing over France. But I just gotta say it's like people are talking about it in terms of infrastructure and planning. We're kind of omitted from the loop in many ways on that. And I think we've talked about that previously, of there's lots of opportunity for the Planning Commission to help provide value in terms of large infrastructure decisions. And when you see an almost $20 million price tag to just cross France, I can speak for a lot of people and saying, like, our taxes are going way up. We need to be more responsible with the spending there. And I wish there was maybe a better outcome from that open house that I could share. But I'll continue to share my thoughts and maybe feedback. But like there's these great ideals we have and want to achieve things, but we have to be responsible. And I just, speaking for a lot of residents who have reached out to me asking what is going on there, when you look at the cost of this whole interchange and project being way less than that, there's a lot of things we can point to be a little more responsible with. And yeah. Yeah, just the bridge over 100 and the bridge over the railroad. And when you think of that impact and what that cost being a fraction of what's being proposed to just cross France, I think in terms of large infrastructure, we're a little disconnected from like the actual price tag and who's paying for it, but we're paying for that. So it's important that we spend dollars like responsibly and getting a full return on the money. And there's other people who feel the opposite from me, but I have to call it out. So thank you.
On that subject, Carrie, do you know if the yellow cards, I will get there in a minute, I just want to follow up. You know if those yellow cards from that open house are going to be public? Are they going to be on the BTE or something?
I know
The
that
comment cards that we filled out at the,
yeah, we're putting them all together. There was,
quite a lot.
like 200 some. Yeah. So we're putting them together. Where they'll exactly land, I'm not sure, but more to come on that.
Okay, good, thanks. Was there somebody else over here? Bonnie?
I was just going to say, I want equal time here, because I'm going to completely disagree.
Oh, good.
With Jimmy. So with all due respect, we did have a planning commission meeting with Bill that he called before he ever brought this and before he put the signs up, where I think there was about half of us that attended that. And we talked about a lot of the different points. I also see it as a safety issue, and you can talk about money all day long, but you've got, on a nice day, hundreds of people on bikes, in strollers, in cars, crossing not just a full intersection, but 4, oft-used left turns as well for people that, aren't watching what the crossing signs say. And we're talking about building how many more units and connecting two of the city's biggest parks. And all it's going to take is one dreadful accident for a kid on a bicycle or a mom or a dad with a stroller that is crossing when somebody's turning left. And then all of a sudden, it's not going to be about the money anymore. And I see it as a safety issue. And I drive by it and run in it and walk in it multiple times. And on a nice day, there's more than hundreds of people using that intersection. And I think it's going to probably, I would guess, triple by the time we're building these additional apartments and people are working there, and then the park and Fred Richards is fully developed. So,
Yeah, my only comment on that is that it's disappointing that Hennepin County isn't participating. It doesn't really matter who is funding it. It's not. I mean, it's not the county, the state, the city. We're paying for it all, regardless. So it's not. It's our money, wherever it comes from. Yeah, I don't think the city should be footing the full bill for it by any means. We looked at this on the Transportation Commission 10, 12 years ago, and looked at doing a bridge overpass, and that was in the $7 to $10 million range back then. So I mean, this hasn't. I think it's 20 to 30 million is what we're looking at on the underpass. I did not attend the meeting, so I don't have all the facts. But again, it's wherever the money comes from. Any transportation-related issue is our money. Again, that's all I have to say.
I have one response, because I agree with you on what you're saying. Most of it's predicated by that planning commission meeting that I attended to. We had a choice, and the developer preferred it also to do a straight shot to cut through under France, which would cut that project in half and make it more safe, where you don't have blind corners that you're turning to access to get under it. So a lot of it, again, is predicated on the process of how does a tunnel under a bridge and that type of project get to be 20 to 30 million. It's because of that, and so again, it's more of a call to like rein it in, and that was kind of added to like a planning commission sketch plan meeting. That wasn't, remember, it was not televised, it was in the conference room. So there's ways to be more responsible for our people and our money, and I agree with you, like, I'd like to see a safer way to get through there, but like the particular details of where we're at is just an outcome I can't support. But I agree with you.
We probably won't get to agreement on that tonight. So any other new comments on this?
I mean, I think certainly the pencil could be sharpened, and,
Sure.
We need to be fiscally responsible, no question.
Any other comments?
Love the diversity in our group of opinions.
yes,
It
absolutely.
reflects the tensions and diversity in the city.
Yeah, that's where there's 9 of us.
Yes.
Carrie, anything?
Nothing from staff.
May I make a motion to adjourn? Are we there?
Is there a second?
Second?
Roll call.
Commissioner Padilla,
Here?
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett,
Aye.
Commissioner Henneman, Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Felt has left us, Chair Alkire.
Aye.
She votes aye.
Meeting's adjourned.